Hi all, welcome to this presentation on comparison of the development of internet and the changes which perhaps would happen in the next uh, 50 years. So let me start by giving a context of human development and taking that into how, as a comparison scale, to see how we are developing on the internet. So let me start here with first the human development. And I have taken this topic of human existence development. And for that, I have taken 2024 as the base year here. We are in year 2024. And when I searched how long have Homo sapiens been alive on this planet, it is humans have existed as Homo sapiens for last 300,000 years. So I started taking 0 years as the year when Homo sapiens started living as a species. And then I plotted generations there. So the first 90,000 years I plotted from when the first Homo sapiens started living as a species, perhaps somewhere in Africa or wherever they originated. And then 90,000 years passed where they have lived as a species, after which another 180,000 years passed where they were still living as a species and developing. And then another 90,000 years, that is 27,000 years passed. And these are the time scales here, which shows this 90,000, 180,000 and 27,000 years. And now we come to year 2024. So that's what I have plotted. And perhaps let's say we have lived for 300,000 years today. So that's the difference in the generations. Now, I have taken one generation as approximately 30 years in age. So if we look at the first human generation, and if we take the average human generation age as 30 years, so a father giving birth to a son, and in approximately 20 to 30 years, perhaps it's little lesser, but I've taken as an average of today's picture, where generally men become dads at 30. I became a dad at 31. So I think average wise, it is perhaps indicative. Now, if you take one generation's age as 30 years, if you look at the first 90,000 years, which means you have had first 3,000 generations of our great, 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 whatever, grandparents. So the 301st human generation was this guy in indicated as in brown color. And he started as the 3,001st human generation. And again, that continued for another 90,000 years, where we land up at 180,000 years of we living as a species. And here, we are the 601st generation in 180,000 years. And this again continued till we come to the first 9,000 generations. And then we continue till the first 10,000 generations to year 2024. So your father, grandfather, great-grandfather, and so on are just two, three generations up. In the 10,000 generations we have had, we are just not even 1% kind of 0.1% or something like that, 0.01% actually. If you take 1,000 as 0.1%, it would be 0.01%. We don't even represent that. So that's what we are. Now, after the 9,000 first generation, you had development, and then you had Christ, who comes somewhere here between the first 9,000 generations and first 10,000 generations. And we classify this time as BC and then as AD. So we are looking at a very small time scale of human development. Now, putting that into context, what did we do for the first 3,000 generations? We protected your children and cohabitors and found food and survived. So basically these two things we did: find food and survive, and protect your children and cohabitors so that they are not attacked by animals and snakes and not eaten and so on. Some would be eaten, but they had defense mechanisms against that. Uh, they started fighting back and so on. Then another 3,000 generation up to the first 6,000 generation, we were still finding shelter and sustainable food and building a sustainable life. So we said, can we spend all this time just doing hunting, gathering, or should we have a much more stable kind of lifestyle? It doesn't happen that now I feel hungry. Oh, I need to go out and hunt. Imagine that situation. Human life would not have developed. Then we come to after the first 6,000 generation, perhaps they started developing more of shelter and sustainable food. So now they started building a society and owning property and material to build. So basically, you see the development of being a daily existence to building a sustainable life and finding shelter and sustainable food. And now you come to building societies and owning property and material. And that is still continuing, and it would continue. Now, if we look at the period from Christ to the year 2024, we have many developments here. What happened during these times? Perhaps this is called the after Christ era, Anno Domino or AD as it is called. And here we started to form kingdoms and areas of control. So you started to have a structure in which there was a king and he had a control of the peasants who worked in the fields and grew crops and food and so on. So it was a structuring of how you formed kingdoms and areas of control and how did you manage your life. That is what happened there. And then you started to look at technologies to dominate, and you had gunpowder, you had horses, you had elephants, animals, and so on, and basically attack other people, take control of their land, and build sustainable areas. After which you come to the year 1900 when we talk of the Industrial Revolution area. So you're coming to the Industrial Revolution area, and here you look at different developments from the year 1900 to year 2024. And what happens here is you look at, again, technologies to dominate. So there was more uh, development of this technologies to dominate, like gunpowder, horses, elephants, armies, to new technologies to dominate, which was dynamite, tanks, aircraft, and then finally graduating to atom bombs, where you created a scenario where you could wipe out cities or destroy all civilization there with just one drop. So basically, you started advancing on owning property and material, and then getting into ways to control that and dominate that property and material. Now we start from the year 1991 to year 2024. And this is what I call the internet era, because in 1991, I started hearing about computers and how they are connected, and all. You could have email and you could send messages instead of sending them by post, which takes 15, 20 days to reach across continents. You could send it and reaches you in like 1 minute. So it would be fantastic. So that's when I started hearing. So I've classified this as the start of the internet era. And so you're looking at different time scales of development. And what we are looking here is from 1991 to 2024, you see the development of internet. And you see the Mosaic or web browser comes in 1993, which starts the whole internet process. And you had the dial-up modem and so on. And from year 1995 to year 1998, I was thinking what to buy, what not to buy. And I bought my first computer, a desktop, in the year 1998 when I started using it. And then I found access to email and so on. And with Google, we started to have information organization, and flow becomes important. Then in year 2004 to year 2007, you had Facebook and LinkedIn, and you found a place to have your virtual identity. So basically a place to express yourself and having an internet where you were there. Now let's take these two eras and basically put them together. So I have taken the first era, which is the human existence development era, and it goes on for 300,000 years. And we are looking at the internet development and how this will develop in the future is what we are looking at. As the human society developed, they first started building a sustainable life, then they started building a society and building property and material, owning property and material, and telling on rights that this is what we own, no one can, it's only for my use, and so on. So basically, that started being dynamic. Similarly, on the internet, which started in 1991 or 1993, sometime during that time, to year 2024, we have had these developments, and I have just plotted these to say what would happen in the future. So you had this Mosaic web browser and my desktop, my first desktop, and so on. And then with Google in year 2000 to 2001, we became accustomed to search. And then 2004 to 2007, you had Facebook, LinkedIn, and so on. And then 2018, you had GDPR and data regulations introduced in Europe, and they would similarly be introduced across different countries in the world. So you have that kind of thought going on. And in the year 2024, I believe you will start seeing owning property or having virtual ownership as a key. What do you own? You own the products, you own. So we have started this third phase of society, owning property and material here. As let me show this here. Owning property and material. I think uh, this part which is there, owning property and material, will start from now on here in 2024, and you will see virtual ownership coming up online. Yeah, I own data, but I also need to own it and monetize it and have all access to it. So basically, when the human society started this, I believe that also will start soon on the internet. And you will have regulations which are there, which are coming up around data. And it would also start, uh, you would also start this whole progress into how are you going to own data, how are you going to monetize it, and so on. So that is what I wanted to cover. Thank you and have a nice day. Thank you.